Andy Brickley. Brick, for the first time in 2025, we are going to talk about a Bruins win, which is a very good thing considering where things were. A 6-game losing streak, and you get the win over the Panthers, which was great. We'll talk about that. We'll look ahead to the Lightning matchup as well. It was an eventful trip for the Bruins with some interesting comments from Brad Marchand in response to a report, we'll call it, about some alleged tension inside the locker room that was quickly rebuffed by the captain and others. So we'll get into all that. But first and foremost, Brick, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well. I know I didn't travel with the group after the game in Tampa. Spent some time down in Sarasota, so just back from Florida. Got a chance to play a little golf, but because we were playing golf, we had to listen to the game on the radio on the golf course, and it sounded like a pretty entertaining hockey game. And I saw some footage, highlights, etc. when I got back home, and it looked like you had a pretty fun time with the mothers during that game.
I did. Of course, it was the mom's trip, and they had a good time over the course of the trip, and. Because, as you mentioned, we had the game on Nesson on Thursday against the Lightning, a 4-1 loss for the Bruins, a game they played pretty well, made a couple of mistakes in that game that really cost them some self-inflicted wounds. But the mother's trip continued, and, it was a national game on Saturday. And so, because of that, I don't have my normal rinkside reporter duties. Obviously, you and Judd weren't on the call. And so we hung out with the moms in the suite and got some footage of the celebration, got some footage of Ray Bourque and Derek Lowe paying a visit to the suite as well, and then got to talk to Lynn Marchand after the Bruins 4-3 overtime win. So it was a lot of fun, and I know I was spotted on national TV. Our producer Brian Zaccello made sure to send me a text after the Bruins' first goal. I had my phone and I was trying to capture all the celebration, and I pop up in the background. So I heard about that one. From our guy Z, but
does that mean there's a little something extra in the mail when it comes payday?
Yeah, absolutely. It's coming from the league. Yeah, absolutely. Doing some work, some good content there. So Brick, I guess we'll just start. With the win over the Panthers, why not, right? Like you said, it was an exciting game. It was. It was going according to script, though, in terms of the Bruins' recent matchups against the Panthers, right? Because, the Panthers came out, they did what they did. They were forechecking. They got some early opportunities. You're thinking, oh, man, here we go again. But the Bruins were able to score first, and they scored on the power play, which was huge. And, it took off from there. And again, the Panthers were able to do their thing throughout the course of the game. But the Bruins, I think at the end of the day, Brick, when you lose 6 straight, you got to find a way to win. And that's what the Bruins did.
Yeah, the phrase that obviously comes to mind is badly needed. A much-needed win. They needed to stop the hemorrhaging. They needed to stop losing, no matter what it looked like. And as we were listening to the game, you could hear the commentary about shot volume and pucks at the Bruins net relative to what the Bruins had going in the opposite direction, almost like a rope-a-dope at times. And, when the Bruins have power plays, and we talk about this, all the time, a power play goal, regardless of what your percentage is at that time. You're down by the bottom of the league, if not at the bottom. But if you can get a key power play goal at a very important juncture in the hockey game, how it can change the dynamic of that hockey game and the tenor of the hockey game. And for the Bruins to get a power play goal early in that hockey game, despite the way Florida was playing, it is huge. And it's huge for your psyche. It's huge for the believability factor that you can do some good things and win a hockey game somehow, some way. And I know it got more interesting the deeper you got into that hockey game, but that's what you're looking for. The power play needs to be more than it is, obviously, because the Bruins aren't an offensively dynamic team, so your power play has to be more impactful.
Yeah, they had gone 8 straight games without scoring a power play goal and hadn't scored multiple power play goals since October 16th. The only other time this season was against the Colorado Avalanche, and the second power play goal, of course, came in overtime with a 4-on-3 and the David Pastrnak pass that went off of Sam Reinhart's stick. Hey, you need a little puck luck too, right?
Absolutely.
And that's something to get you back on track, and the Bruins got some of that finally.
Yeah, and maybe a little bit of good feeling that, the guy that took the penalty is a guy that, plays on the edge and you get the call to go your way. It was Bennett, right, that got the penalty, if I'm not mistaken?
Great point.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, that also might give you a little extra feeling. But, look, they needed to get something out of that trip. They needed to stop the losing. You wanted it to have a good ending because all the mums were there, and you're hoping you had a little bit of extra energy. They had to come home. You couldn't go Florida, Tampa, and not have anything, particularly when you just came back from a 3-game road trip and didn't have anything. We talk about the standings all the time. Look around. It's getting tough. It's getting harder. There's teams around you. Things are tightening up. It's going to be a battle all the way to the end of the regular season. So that win was huge. It's now, what can you build off of it? Where's that believability factor right now when you start thinking about the next upcoming game?
Yeah, you mentioned the standings, Brick, and why not talk about that right now? Just worth a look at them. The Maple Leafs right now in first place with 56 points. Again, we're recording this on Monday, full disclosure, but the only team that we're really talking about here in terms of the standings are the Panthers. They're in action. They're going to remain in second place regardless of the outcome on Monday night. So you got the Maple Leafs, 56 points. The Panthers, 53 points. The Lightning, 49 points. And again, they have all those games in hand on the Bruins. 4 games in hand on the Bruins. It was 5. They finally played on a night where the Bruins weren't playing, so it's just 4 at this point. So the Bruins in fourth place. They're in that top wild card spot, but they only have a point lead on the Columbus Blue Jackets. And the Columbus Blue Jackets right now have the tiebreaker with the Bruins because they got the 2 wins, and they also have more regulation wins as well. But Brick, the Senators are right behind, 45 points, and you see them twice over the next couple of weeks in Ottawa on Saturday. The Red Wings have won 7 straight, a coaching change in Tom McClellan. As they've found something there. The Canadians have 44 points. The Penguins have 44 points. The Rangers, how bad have the Rangers been this year? They have 42 points. The Islanders 41, the Flyers 41, and the Sabres are dead last in the conference. They have 37 points. So they're 9 points back of that final wild card spot. But again, to your point, it is so tightly congested in the East.
Yeah, and between now and early March, when you get to that trade deadline, what is going to happen? What is your record going to look like between now and then? Where will you be in the standings between now and then? And will that make you a buyer or a seller or neither when you talk about this Bruins team and all the other teams that you just mentioned? Because nobody's really out of it yet. Not even the Buffalo Sabres are out of it yet in the East. So a lot's going to happen over this next stretch. So this is why it's playoff hockey already. We talked about it a week ago, maybe 10 days ago. These are playoff games for the Bruins right now. Given what we've seen for the first 40-plus games from the Boston Bruins, this is your team. This is who they are. This is what they are. Now, can they win consistently? Yes, but they need to stop, we already used the phrase early in the show, self-inflicting mistakes where the puck's in the back of your net. That has to come down. Their power play needs to get better. Their 5-on-5 play needs to be more consistent. Their goaltending, great to see Jeremy Swayman steal a game, if you want to use that phrase, with that game in Florida. He played very well. They needed every one of those stops, and that's kind of the way you expect him to play. Hopefully that'll catapult him into a really good frame of mind moving forward. But this next stretch of games, Adam, over the next, 5-6 weeks or so, whatever it is critical. We're going to find out a lot about what this Boston Bruins team is and what they can do as a group together, as currently constituted, to see where they're going to end up at the end of the regular season.
Yeah, you mentioned Jeremy Swayman, 40 saves, a season high on 43 shots. One of those goals allowed came on the power play. Just 1 second left on the power play. Evan Rodriguez again. Guy hadn't scored a goal in 16 games, but he always seems to find a way against the Bruins, and so he notches the power play goal. But now would be a good time to hear from Jeremy Swayman. Again, it was the mom's trip. Jeremy's mom didn't make the trip. His girlfriend's mom made the trip and actually conducted the post-game interviews with him as well. Take a listen.
It's a team game every time. The attention to detail in our D zone, even the neutral zone, we didn't have as many turnovers, and just obviously getting it done in the offensive zone. It's all 3 zones of the ice were taken care of tonight, and my guys are doing a great job of letting me see the first shot, clearing out rebounds, and blocking shots as well. So that's all momentum for us moving forward, and it's really good to see us get the result.
How much do you enjoy the moment? You're losing streak, they're playing well. They're playing well. They're asking a lot of you. They're asking a lot of what is it like?
I think it's a great opportunity for us to power through, no matter what comes our way, and that's what we did tonight. And Again, you look at every game as it's hard to win in this league, no matter who you're playing against. But it's good to get wins against high-quality opponents, and they made us earn that. So, again, it's something we have to keep in mind that, it's one game, and we have to keep going forward and refocus for the next one.
All right, so Jeremy Swayman after the Bruins 4-3 win over the Florida Panthers. And Brick, we talked a little bit about it. You touched on it a little bit. Jeremy Swayman, stealing a win for the Bruins. And that's something, that we really haven't said much this season. Jeremy Swayman stole a win for the Bruins. Such a talented goaltender, obviously getting the contract in the offseason, the holdout in training camp, missed all of training camp in the preseason, taking a little bit of time to get his legs under him. Hasn't been as consistent. And then you also have the change, with Linus Ullmark no longer there as well. It was, they would alternate games essentially. And now Jeremy Swayman is the man. And so, here we are more than halfway through the season. And you're hoping, that Jeremy Swayman can take that next step in being the goaltender that, plays 50, 60 games for you. I don't, maybe 55 is the sweet spot for him this season. But hopefully, you see more of these type of games from Swayman.
You know what the talent level is. You know how good he can be, and I think the Bruins do too, which is why he got the contract that he got. And with that contract comes that expectation, and it becomes a lot on your plate to be able to handle. You're going to get more games, more workload, more pressure. And when the team's not performing to their levels in front of you, it's even more difficult. And you're hoping that you're this far into the season that a game like that win in Florida kind of builds him up and gives him what he needs in order to build off and consistently give you saves when you need them most. Even when he's played well in the stretches of where he has lost games, you're kind of hoping, can you get me one more save? Can you give me that save in that situation to keep it a 2-2 game or a 2-1 game or whatever it might be? Because that's what you're leaning on. That's what you need. That's what you're hoping you're going to get. And when you get it, it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling for the player. It's a great feeling for the team. We just haven't gotten enough of that, and he's the first one to tell you, I can be better. I can be the guy I need to be on a nightly basis to make sure that I don't just give you a chance to win. I guarantee you that we're going to win because, I'm on top of my game, and we keep waiting for it to get there. You hope it coincides with everybody playing a better brand of hockey and understanding where they are in the standings and how important every 2 points is right now, not in March or April, but right now here in January and February, how, you're not going to play a ton of games in February, so you better solidify your spot right here and right now because it's going to be a compressed schedule once we get beyond, the tournament that's going to go on in February. So, and the league shuts down for a couple of weeks. So all that being said, Swayman's performance, you hope that that's kind of a springboard towards what we want, what we expect, and what you need.
Yeah, hopefully a sign of things to come. No question about that. And again, making big saves for the Bruins. Stoning Matthew Tkachuk on the breakaway in the second period. Just writing down a couple of things. Again, I was in the mom suite, so I didn't have as good of a view of the game. I know you listened to it on the radio. I couldn't really see the lower bowl at all because I had all the moms in front of me, and of course they get the view, so I was watching the monitor a little bit. But that Tkachuk save was huge.
Yeah.
And then, you allow the power play goal, 1 second left. And then, towards the end of regulation, obviously you get the deflection, and you can see, Osterley just misses it with his glove as it goes over Swayman and
tell me what that feeling was like where you were. Was it here we go again? We're going to find a way to lose. Was that the overwhelming feeling? Was that the emotion, or was it dig in? This game's still winnable?
Well, if you're talking from my perspective, I would say, oh no, here we go again, right?
Yeah,
because of the history with the Panthers, because of the way the team has been playing. And, you had the moms there. And so they were deflated because they're, and
right.
I will say this, we're going to talk a little bit more about the moms because, it was a special trip. But, they're emotionally invested in a different way, right? They're fans, but these are their sons on the ice, right? And so they're traveling with them. They get to see what it's like day to day, but they also get to experience the emotion of it with them, right? And they feel that. And so after that loss to the Lightning, right, in a game that, you felt you played pretty well, and to have things sort of fall apart on you was deflating. And so it wasn't a happy plane ride to Sunrise. And so here they are, fresh start, clean slate. You're 2 seconds away from winning. And then to have the game tying goal was deflating. And so I think that there was this sort of moment of deflation, but then when overtime started, it was like, all right, boys, let's get back on it. And you felt that sort of vibe from the moms, right? They felt more positive than anything. And they've been on the ride. This ain't their first rodeo, right? So that was the feeling in the suite. And it was great. I'm glad they got to see that, and it was great to see their reaction firsthand, no doubt.
Yeah, not having been on the plane to fly over to Sunrise from Tampa, I could imagine, because the turnaround time wasn't that full day, full 2 days. They weren't going to play a 7:00 game with a day in between. It was an early puck drop on Saturday afternoon, so it's a different approach from the players in terms of processing your emotions from losing a game. Now it's 5-6 straight. You're really searching for answers. You're trying to come together as a group. You're trying to solve your issues. You're trying to find a way to make sure that you salvage something on this trip and stop the bleeding. And the game's going to come quick, but you want that experience for your mothers to be one of enjoyment. And we see how you guys live. We see how you work. We see how you prepare. But you're catching your sons at a really tough time because you're dealing with a whole lot of losing, and that's never a good situation. And for them to have the performance that they had on Saturday afternoon and find a way to beat Florida, and it was, as you pointed out, it was Florida, already beat the Bruins twice this year, and we know about past playoff experiences. So I got to imagine that had to be some real jubilation in overtime when they win, before the shootout could start. So I can understand. I have a sense. I have a feel, having been in those situations, never with a mother's trip, but just the emotions the players were dealing with, because it's never a comfortable situation. It's never a good feeling. It's not a good feeling in the room. Everybody's pressing, and it's hard to keep it together as a group, and they were able to do it.
They were. You're watching the Hockey Hub, and if you like what you hear, make sure to like and subscribe to the show. Hockey Hub can be found on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and wherever else podcasts are found. Adam Pellerin and Andy Brickley here with you on episode number 28 of the Hockey Hub, an Elias Lindholm episode, maybe, of the Hockey Hub. You got any 28s in your Rolodex, Rick, that you can think of? Okay.
Guy that sat right next to me in the locker room, Gary Galley.
There you go, right, Gary Galley.
Yeah. I think he got paid by the word too. Man, he talks a lot.
Mark Recchi, 28.
Mark Recchi, 28. One of my favorites.
Yep.
Yeah,
no question.
Instrumental in that cup in 2011.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about that. So we're talking about the Bruins in Florida, the win over the Panthers, the Moms trip. And, after that overtime game winner from David Pastrnak, there was a lot of celebration. And I caught up with the captain's mom, Lynn Marchand.
What do we think about a Bruins win to close out the Moms trip?
Unbelievable. Like, we are going home happy and celebrating and just so excited for the boys.
How was the trip overall?
This was the most amazing mom's trip ever. It was a fabulous group of moms, great group of guys. Loren and the Bruins management put on such a great welcoming experience for us, and was just amazing.
They might not let you go home after this win.
I don't care. I want to stay here with the Bruins.
It was just fantastic. And I will say that this was not her first rodeo. She's been on the mom trips in the past. And she was sort of the leader of the group. There were some new moms on the trip, some new faces. And, she was sort of, doing what the captain does, leading by example. So that was pretty cool to see. And the other cool moment, Brick, was, we had a little visit from another captain, Ray Bourque. Coming into the mom suite, spending some time there, and he had company as well. How about a World Series champion, Derek Lowe, who was also down there,
Nice.
Which was also a pleasant surprise. So that was pretty cool to see those guys come in and pay a visit. It was awesome.
Yeah, it had to have been, and I'm a little jealous because a fan of both of those guys, obviously having played with Raymond a number of years, but Derek Lowe and what he meant to the Red Sox and their success, and even when things weren't going his way, his ability to battle through and come up big at the biggest moment. I think is really impressive, and great personalities on both of them. Very sociable people, and not knowing Derek very well, but certainly know Raymond well, I'm sure the moms all felt good about themselves after having an opportunity to chat with those guys.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was cool to see. And Ray Bourque, obviously, everybody knew who he is, right? If you're a Bruins fan, you're a hockey fan in general. But not everybody's a baseball fan. Obviously, not everybody's from Boston. Teresa Coyle, obviously knew who Derek Bull was, and I know Mark McLaughlin's mom did as well, the local people. But there were some others that were like, "Oh, it's Derek Lowe," so that was pretty cool. And the other thing too, we'll just put a bow on the mom's trip here. One of the best moments of the trip was before the Lightning game. Before the Bruins were about ready to take the ice, Charlie McAvoy's mom, Jen, and Lynn Marchand were rehearsing the lineup because they had the task of reading the lineup in the room. And you saw on social media the lineup being read to the boys in the room and the reaction. They did a great job. But the best part that you didn't get to see, and you might see, I believe it's going to be on Behind the Beat. Don't quote me on that because they were out in the hallway and I think they were shooting it. But the rehearsal part of it was pretty fun. They were trying to get it just right. And they also were, they were being instructed on, all right, well, this is what's going to happen. The coaching staff's going to go in the room. Joe's going to, do some business. And then you guys come in and you do the lineup, right? And this is the stall that you go into. And so it was pretty fun. They wanted to make sure they got everything right. And and they did. They nailed it. So that was pretty cool to see.
Good to hear.
All right. For more on the Bruins and the biggest trending news in the sports world, check out Boston Has Entered the Chat, hosted by George Bellecci and Travis Thomas, available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and wherever else podcasts are found. All right, Adam Pellerin and Andy Brickley here with you, coming off a Bruins win, looking ahead to the matchup against the Lightning. We will look ahead to the rematch against Tampa Bay, which will take place at TD Garden tonight in just a moment. But first, the other news from the trip, Brick, of course, was the report that came out on the radio regarding Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak. The report was that David Pastrnak was, quote, a problem in the room and did not want to skate on a line with Brad Marchand. It was something that was quickly refuted by the Bruins, and the captain came out and had some strong words. Take a listen.
I have heard, what was said in the media this morning. It's unfortunate. I know reporters have a job to do, and that job is to report on the team, and usually you try to be fact-based. But when there's just blatant lies told in the media, that's where there's a problem. And the fact that this guy has a platform and he's just making stuff up is embarrassing. And there's zero truth to anything that he said on the radio. This is how you lose a job very quickly. The fact that he's going to have a job after this is insane, because Pass and I are best friends. We've had an incredibly close relationship for a long time. The only reason we don't play together is so that we can spread depth throughout the lineup. There's zero truth to him being a problem in the room. He's one of the most loved guys in the room. There's zero issues in the room at all. And the fact that they say that he's in the center of anything is a completely fabricated lie. So this guy has zero merit to anything he's saying. It's very frustrating because this is what happens. Obviously, we have not pulled our weight this year. We have not had the season that we've wanted to have. But I'm not going to let some random guy come in the media and just spit absolute nonsense. And so, I mean, from this point forward, this guy has zero credibility. The fact that he's coming out with this is ridiculous. It's embarrassing. It just, anything that he puts forward in the future is now not going to be deemed as truth because he's completely just making all of this up. And, it's unfortunate. If he would have done some kind of fact check, he probably just made this up. If not, if he would have fact checked, he would have found out that it's all nonsense. There's zero truth to this. It's ridiculous that now that we even have to address it. I wasn't going to address it. I wasn't going to talk about it, but I'm not going to let it become something that it's not. So this guy can go pound sand, go back to the closet where no one knew where he was before, and report on nothing, because that's what he's going to be doing after this.
Brad, just a quick follow-up to that. Stuff is said all the time on social media and through the media. Why was it important for you to...
Yeah, I don't care about what people say on social media. That's their opinions. But for him to go on the media and speak about it as it's fact and as it's truth, and to have a conversation about this, and the problem is that it reaches a lot of people on the radio station that it was on or wherever it was put out. And it's not going to become a story, because it's not what's going wrong. And, if there are issues that need to be dealt with, we would deal with them internally, but that's not the case in this situation. Yeah, there's things that we need to fix, and there's things that we need to improve moving forward, but that's not one of them.
All right, so some strong words, to say the least, from Captain Brad Marchand following that report. And, Brick, I was there, obviously, and I saw, the report come out. It was on Sports Talk Radio, and I was sort of wondering, I was like, all right, well, how are the Bruins going to handle this? Are they going to just ignore it completely, or are they going to address it? And they obviously thought that the latter was the best way to deal with that. And, Brad Marchand came out and was very direct, and you heard it. So, Brick, I guess just first your thoughts on what the captain had to say.
The line that jumps out to me most, believe it or not, is, we don't want this to be a story. This is not going to be a story. But because it was addressed, and now it becomes a story, and it gets more legs than it should have. And, my desire is that it's not a story. And if there's issues, and you know what, there's always issues. When you lose 6 in a row, there's issues. There's issues, whether they're small, minor, or large. That's between the players. That's between the coach and the players. It belongs in that locker room, and it needs to be solved in that locker room if there are issues. And having been there, Adam, having been on bad teams that lost more than 6 in a row, and having been on good teams that had losing streaks, it gets emotional, and it gets hard, and it's hard to keep it together as a group, and feelings are hurt, things are said, you're trying to get each other going, and sometimes you might cross the line with something you said. Now, I'm not saying that this is what happened. I'm not in the room. That's the domain of the players, and it's always been my mindset, and how I approach my job is I can be as close to the players as I need to be, but I try to give them that room. That's their sanctuary. That's where they come together as a group, and that it's their space. And I know it's different today, and there's a lot of people in that locker room, and there's a desire for the fan base to see what goes on in that room, and that's all great. I understand the world we live in, but for me personally, so I have to look at the hockey team. I have to look at Marchand, and I have to look at Pastrnak, and do I see anything? Is there anything there? I see them socially, whether we're traveling by bus or traveling on a plane or just being in the lobby of the hotel. There are no indications from my perspective, Adam, and you're even closer to it than I am. You're down at ice level. You're by the locker room. You're by you're on the ice. I don't see anything that would lend itself to being such a strong issue that it's hurting the locker room, it's hurting the team, and it's hurting their performance. I don't see that. So I believe the reporter, or however you describe his, talk show host. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I believe he believes that his story is accurate, and he has a track record of being accurate, and I'm fine with that. That's how they go about business. That's the way he does his business, and that's the report he wanted to put out there. My feeling, just where I started this, Adam, and I don't want it to be a story. I don't even want to react to the story, because with losing, these things happen. Whether they're accurate or not is almost irrelevant, and it's up to the room to be able to handle it themselves, keep it together. Bruins opted to address it. Marchand opted to address it, and I understand that. That's a tough one. That's a 50-50. How do you handle this? Which way do we go? They decided to go this way. I just think that adds fuel to it, and that's not where I want this to go for the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, I would agree, and I would also agree with what you had to say. I mean, that again, pretty close to the team. There was no indication that there was anything wrong. Not to say that there couldn't be. I'm just saying, from what I've seen from being there and being in the room, when the players are made available or just being around, no indication of that whatsoever. And I agree. You could go either way. You could choose to ignore it, which is something that, it was the Patriot way, right, for a number of years with Bill Belichick, and not acknowledging anything in the media. Or you can address it and get out in front of it. And you know what? At the end of the day, Brick, they end up addressing it, and then they end up coming up with a big win over the Panthers the very next day with both Pasta and Brad Marchand on the ice together celebrating a game-winning goal. So I guess the follow-up question, can something like this galvanize a team?
Oh, that would be a wishful response, don't you think? I mean, something needs to galvanize this team into more wins, and I don't know if they need to get any closer with each other. I think it's a pretty tight-knit group, and I think the Bruins locker room for the past 20-plus years has been the envy of the National Hockey League, if you really want to put it that way. And even though it has changed because the turnover is there, you've moved on from the previous two captains and the second layer of leadership that needs to be there with a guy that is the captain in Brad Marchand, that can be a stronger group. That can be a stronger leadership group, but nobody's having great years, and that affects your ability to lead. So I think the room is a little different. It's not as solidified, it's not as strong, it's not as dominant, but it's still one of the most popular aspects of this team and teams that come here. You just ask the guys that signed big contracts and came in here, and Zadorov and Lindholm, they'll tell you what that locker room's all about, having come from other places. So it's still a strength of this organization. But when you're not, and Brad touched on this, and it was very important that he did, when you're not playing up to expectations, when you're not delivering, when you're not winning hockey games, when you're not playing hockey the way you're expected to play, when you're not delivering, these things come up because it's just the nature of losing hockey. And it's up to you as a group. Do you want to address it, or you just want to let it go and handle it in-house and handle it in the locker room? Or do you address it and try to make it go away that way? Not sure that was the best decision.
Yep, and that's going to be something that comes up again, and it'll be interesting. Not this particular topic, but there'll be an issue that comes out in the media, right? And you have to decide, the best way to handle it. All right, let's get back to the hockey. Okay. Vinni Lettieri called up from Providence, and that follows the injury to Mark Kastelik, and that happened in the game against the Lightning. Gets cross-checked in the face, ends up in a bout with Lilleberg, misses the game against the Panthers, and at Bruins practice on Monday did not take part. And so you have Lettieri skating on a third line at practice with Trent Frederick and Oliver Wahlstrom. Wahlstrom, by the way, scoring his first goals, a member of the Bruins, game a 3-2 lead against the Panthers, and then Justin Brazeau down on that fourth line with Johnny Beecher and Cole Koepke. And so who knows if these will be the lines come Tuesday night, but that fourth line that we had talked about a lot in the year, Mark Kastelik was a big driver of that line. And so if you're without him for an extended period of time, you obviously lose that element of the game and that physicality, Brick.
Yeah, that's a loss, no question about it. And, even though he doesn't really drive an offensive line, he does his job, and he does it very well. And he's an asset to this team that will be missed if he's unable to play for a while. So it's that next man up mentality. You should have enough depth in terms of your third and fourth line guys to move them around to get what you need from that bottom six. So you're going to need elevated play from other players that are going to be in those situations, plain and simple. And it's all part of winning hockey. And I'm sure Kastelik would love to be in the lineup. He'd like to get right back, play against Tampa as quickly as possible. The good news is you got a couple more games with Tampa, right? 3 more?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
yep.
So, there'll be an opportunity. There'll certainly be an opportunity for Kastelik to get back in the lineup against the Lightning. I'm sure that's something that he desires. But, yeah, he's a loss. But it's not catastrophic. It's not going to cause you to lose hockey games. You can make up his minutes. Can you make up his physicality? Yeah, a few other guys can handle that department. But he gives you that versatility. He can play center, can play wing on that fourth unit. He maybe even slide up the third line if necessary. And he's a good guy to have in your lineup because everybody, they play a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit tougher. That's what those guys do. So, yeah, that's a loss, but it's an opportunity for somebody else. You mentioned Vinni Lettieri getting called up. We don't know if he's going to dress, if he's going to play, if he's going to get an opportunity, what kind of opportunity it's going to be. But he's got to be prepared. He's got to be ready. And anytime you get a call up from the American League, there's your opportunity, whether it's 4 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever you play. You got to impact the game as best you can based on your skill set. And if he gets that opportunity, he's played enough games in the National Hockey League to know the situation that he's in.
All right, and so the matchup against the Lightning is tonight at TD Garden. The Bruins coming off a 4-1 loss, and talked about it a little bit off the top, Brick. That was a game in which the Bruins played pretty well. It was just a couple of mistakes that cost them. You had the shorthanded goal, obviously. We talked a lot about the power play, and it's just like not only not able to score goals or generate momentum, but you got, scoring going the other way, never a good thing. And then less than a minute to go in a period, you allow a goal and you're in a 2-0 hole going into the third period. And so, it was a 4-1 final, but it was a lot closer than that, Brick.
Yeah, it was that second goal that really bothered us. You just kind of gave up the blue line too easy. It was a misread. I think it was a 2-on-1, but it was actually a 2-on-2 with the back checker getting there in time. Now you back up all the way to the dot. You're looking for a save there, but that's inside the hash mark, below the dot. That's close range. This is the NHL. Guys score from there, but it was self-inflicted, So, yeah, the shorthanded goal and then that goal, and you're chasing the score when you're playing pretty good and you need a win because you've lost a bunch in a row. That stuff frustrates you. It frustrates the fans. It frustrates us when we're calling the game. It certainly frustrates the players in the organization, and you're trying to find ways to win hockey games, but you keep shooting yourself in the foot, so to speak, by making critical errors at critical times that ends up hurting you on the scoreboard.
My question, I guess we just talked about Mark Kastelik and the cross check to the face from Lilleberg. Do we expect a physical matchup against the Lightning on Tuesday?
Yeah, there was a lot going on.
Especially towards the end of the game, right?
Yeah, well, Frederick and Chernak had a little. Yeah, Frederick and Chernak had a little something going. I remember Lorei shot the puck right at the buzzer. Was that the end of the first period? I think it was at the end of the first period. Chernak started barking at him, and then that got the rest of the Bruins' attention. Zadorov was in there. Frederick was in there. The guys you expect. So, because the game went the way it went, because Kastelik ended up in a bad situation at the end of the hockey game, I think there's some bad blood there, and it's a team that you got to beat. It's a team that's right there at the standings with you. Yeah, they got the games in hand, but anytime you face them straight up, it's a 4-pointer. It's a must-win for you if you want to step on people on your way up. This is the team to do it. So, I expect it to be an emotional game, a physical game, a high-tempo game, and a game the Bruins want to win to build off what they did in the game against Florida.
Do you think that they're going to follow the same sort of blueprint that they did against the Lightning in that first? Or do they have to make any adjustments going into this?
Yeah, in terms of what? In terms of
5-on-5 mostly.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean, you'd like to see them get on the power play and score again, but in terms of the 5-on-5.
Yeah, you hope that the power play success that you had in your most recent win helps you. It helps you with the power play, and it helps you offensively. And because it's Pastrnak with the game winner, he's been finding the back of the net pretty consistently. If you can use that phrase now, you hope that he's feeling good about his game, and you hope that Swayman's feeling good about his game. That you're going to get every save that you're going to need. But in terms of the game plan, I think it's the execution of the game plan and then the consistent offensive zone time. We talk about how you throw the puck into the zone. Don't let Vasilevsky be able to set it up for his defenseman. Don't throw it across corner so it comes right back to the D. Don't wrap it around hard when you're making a line change and the line change is on the other side of the ice. I mean, you're just giving possession up. I think that's one area they could be better because they didn't establish the forechecking game that they're capable of establishing with some of those better dump-ins. That's just one little X's and O. And you got to be aware when the top offensive guys are on the ice. You can say that about every team, but this team in particular because of their offense. You got to know when Kucherov's out there with Point, with Gensel. Hagel's a pretty good player. Hedman on the back end. Those are the guys that you got to be aware of. Don't give them extra outs, so to speak. You get a chance to relieve pressure in the defensive zone. Make sure that puck gets into center ice or completely out with a clean exit. I think those areas of the game, those details for Boston, if they can improve on those and play a more disciplined game in that area, along with staying out of the box, I think their chances of winning go way up.
Yeah, stay out of the box against a team that has an excellent power play, but they're second best in the league in power play percentage on the road. And so that is the deal going into tonight's matchup against Tampa Bay Lightning. Back on the call, Brick, it feels like you haven't been in the booth for like 2 weeks, I mean, 5 days. It's only 5 days, but that national game, man, it hasn't played. That just seems like does it feel like a long time?
It does. It does.
Yeah.
You know, you're at that point in the season. We're talking about the Bruins and understanding where they are in the standings and the importance of these next several weeks in terms of making sure that you're a playoff team. These are the games you want to do. These are the games you want to work. You want to be a part of it. You want to watch it firsthand. You're hoping you get a great performance from the Bruins. You want a quality hockey game. You know, it's always fun to do a game when both teams have their A game and may the best team win that night. And that's what you hope to get around now. I know it's dog days, and people talk about dog days at this point in the schedule, but these are huge games, and these are the games you want to be a part of if you can be a part of and not have to be a bystander and have to watch it or listen to it.
Yeah, you have a playoff race to motivate you, no doubt about that.
Right,
12 games until the 2-week break. You'll be at 57 games left when you return, and then the trade deadline, is a couple of weeks after that.
Right.
So, things are going to start to happen very quickly. So, looking forward to the matchup against the Lightning. Brick, always a pleasure, my friend, talking some Bruins hockey with you. We will see you tonight in the booth. Appreciate it, man.
You got it, Adam.
All right. The women's Beanpot tournament kicks off tonight, and Laura Stickles and Annabelle Hasselbeck have you covered with a full semi-final round preview on the newest episode of Respect Her Game, including interviews with players from BC, BU, Harvard, and Northeastern. That's Respect Her Game, available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever else you get your podcasts. All right, here we go. We're getting ready for the women's Beanpot, and to help us with that, Natalie Noury, who will be covering the women's semifinal round tonight. BU Harvard at 4:30, BC Northeastern, the defending champions, at Matthews Arena. So they'll be at their home rink. And then, of course, you have the consolation game and the championship game once again at TD Garden on January 21st. Natalie, are you excited?
Adam. I am so excited. This is, you know what? I've been covering college hockey for the past couple of seasons, and last year was the first year that I got to be a part of the women's Beanpot, also in one of the biggest years that it had, being able to play its championship round at the TD Garden. So yeah, this has become quickly one of my favorite times of the year, and it's certainly a lot of intensity. I'll tell you, the scheduling for myself, never mind the teams, is a lot different than the normal pace of the regular week, but it's there's a lot of excitement, and all the teams, you know, they kind of circle this month on the calendar just because they know that this is the start of the sprint to the end. So I think the Beanpot is a great time of year, not only for these teams, for Boston, but also a great launch pad for where these teams can go for the rest of the year. So yeah, year 2 in the TD Garden is going to be better than the first year. There's going to be more people, which I'm excited about. But yeah, to get things started at Matthews Arena, pretty special place to be for the semifinals. So I'm excited to see it.
All right, so let's get into the matchup. First, you got BU Harvard. Obviously, BU's ranked in the women's college poll. What can we expect in this matchup?
Yeah, you know what? It's so funny because you look at these teams, you look at the rosters, you look at their records, and you know they're capable of anything. So, you know, last year a highlight, I think, and not a highlight for them, but Harvard upset BC, and I thought that was really cool to see, not only for Harvard, for Laura Bellamy, who was in her first year head coaching the program, but just really nice that this tournament can really pose situations where anything can happen. And there's no better competition than the battle of these teams in Boston. So yeah, BU is coming in. You know, they've had a hot start this year. Tara Watchhorn is very pleased with her locker room and just everything that she's seen come together, the culture. And you know what, the same can be said for Harvard too. I think aside from the product on the sheet, these programs have really built themselves up to being, you know, very close, very tight-knit teams. Both head coaches are in second years now, and they're really pleased with what they're seeing on the ice. They're pleased with what they're seeing off the ice. But I think, you know what, it's kind of cliche, but the game could go anyway. But you know, I think BU is going to bring in a lot of fire this time around. But you know, I'll be interested to see how Harvard can, you know, stand their ground.
Yeah, in the second semifinal, will feature Boston College Eagles, Northeastern University Huskies, of course, the Huskies, the defending champions, and Skylar Irving, obviously the hero last year for the Huskies, scoring twice, including the overtime game winner. Northeastern, again, semifinal matchup on their home ice, coming off of a championship last year. What can we expect in this game?
Yeah, I think there's gonna be a lot more than hockey to this game, and I say that because Matthews Arena is a very very old arena, and every time these teams are able to host this round, 4 years pass, and then they get to host it again. But Matthews Arena, there's potential that this could be the last semifinals or Beanpot action that is seen there. So I think Northeastern is going to play for a little more than just the game itself, a little more for Dave Flint, a little more for the arena, a little more for the legacy that they leave behind. But Boston College, they're coming in with a chip on their shoulder. I mean, they didn't do so well last year, and I think that's something that anyone can kind of expect. Coach Crowley really wants her team to fire back because I mentioned, Harvard upset them last year, and I think they just have a lot to prove. They want to win the Beanpot, especially in the TD Garden. Who wouldn't want to? But I think it's that one's going to be a battle because when you're playing for something that's bigger than yourself, and I don't know, I'm a sentimental person, especially when it comes to hockey arenas. So I can imagine that the ladies for Northeastern will be keeping that in their minds as they're playing there. But at Boston College, again, they're going to come in with a little bit more of a fight this year and a little more of something to prove. So I think that game in particular is going to be a really really cool battle to watch, just for different reasons. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Coach Crowley's team always ready to go, no question about that. And so you talk about Northeastern, and Gwyneth Phillips has taken the Britannia Award a couple of years, the top goalie, and of course you have Skylar Irving. You talking about her and her 2 goals, and the Beanpot MVP. These 2 women that could be walking away with some more hardware this year.
Yeah, Skylar Irving, she had to have been one of my favorite parts of last season, just because she's the type of player who's very thoughtful, and she's hungry for it. So she comes in with so much energy. She's a spark plug for this group, and she always seems to come up in very clutch situations with big goals for this team. But she scored the goal in regulation during the championship game last year, and then proceeded to score the overtime goal. So she was just juiced up in so many different ways, and it was so much fun to talk to her afterwards because she just didn't know what to do with herself. She was so excited to have gotten it done for the team, for all the little girls in the audience. That was a really special moment to talk to her. But what Northeastern has continued to prove why they are such a great program for developing goaltenders. Gwyneth Phillips, she was outstanding for her time at Northeastern. But at this year, Lisa Jansson, she's a freshman Swedish player. She I think Dave Flint is expecting her to get some really good playing time, especially at the TD Garden. He said, I'm excited to see her, in just a very high intensity moment, to see how she handles the moment. But again, he gets all of his goaltenders ready to be in situations where they can succeed. So whether it's the goaltenders or the players up front or players out back, I think Northeastern continues to make a case for themselves as to why they are deserving of so much hardware.
Yeah, goaltending certainly been a backbone of the Northeastern women's hockey program for a number of years now. We talked about some of the bigger names. Well, what other players should we be watching out for in the semifinals?
Yeah, I think it's kind of an interesting year, Adam, because it's a lot of the first years, a lot of the sophomores have really emerged for all the programs kind of across the board. So what'll be interesting about some of these young players is how they handle the intensity. We talked to Northeastern head coach Dave Flint just the other day, and he said, of course, there's a little bit of anxiety, a little nervousness regarding playing on NHL ice because none of them have gotten the chance to do so. But they'll come in, and by first shift, second shift, they'll be settled in. But I think it's just going to be interesting to see how some of those younger players can really handle the moment. But I think across the board, like I mentioned, there are just some younger players to keep an eye on. I think Eloise Caron and Morgan Jackson are a couple of freshmen at Northeastern. They're on the same line, and they continue to just develop a ton of chemistry. So I think those two are two to watch for Northeastern, aside from many others. Sammy Tabor from Boston College, she's really, really emerged. She just keeps finding the back of the net and just producing so much offense for this team. So I think that's someone to watch for the Eagles. Lola Reed for BU. She's another, young player who has found herself at the top of the stat sheet, just really making an impact anywhere that she plays. And then I think Ella Lucia at Harvard, she's had quite the task this year because Gwyn Lapp, She was the leading goal scorer for Harvard last year. She played a couple games this year, injured. So that's that first line center. She's out, and Ella Lucia has really stepped up to the task there. So I think there's a lot of first years and young players to keep an eye on. But you know what? Some of the veteran players who have this experience, who know what it takes, I think they're going to come in just hungry too. So it's really going to be a competitive and a fun year.
I want to talk to you quickly about covering the Boston Fleet, Natalie. We mentioned a couple of, talked about Northeastern. I was just thinking about Aaron Frankel and Alina Mueller, obviously on the Fleet. And you've had the opportunity now to be ringside for Boston Fleet games. How's that going?
Yeah, it's going really well, and I'm glad that you mentioned both those names because I think they will be at the semifinal round.
Nice.
And the Fleet have a home game on January 22nd, the day after the finals. So I expect to see them in the stands for at least one of the rounds. So we'll try to bring some coverage from them to the broadcast. But yeah, no, it's been so much fun. It's been really cool just to see a lot of these young players straight out of college going to this massive stage. It's really cool to see someone like Hannah Bilka coming straight out of Ohio State, playing on the same line as Hillary Knight, someone who she grew up idolizing. So it's been really cool to see just this full circle moment for so many of these athletes. But for me too, it's a lot of fun. It's been an adjustment because I mentioned I've covered college hockey for quite a while, and getting to take that to the pro level, it's really special to be a part of. And something I was reading online the other day is just the PWHL continues to break records of attendance. And, the takeover tour, they had such success in Vancouver and Seattle with the attendances. It's just cool that they continue to push the limits of what women's hockey can garner for attention, for skill, for all that. But it's been an adjustment for me, but something that I'm certainly up to the task for. I mean, I'm not on a stage like you yet, Adam, but I'm very excited to be a part of the process. And, it's just really special to be a part of. And I can't wait to get back. End of January, Boston Fleet will be back home in Lowell.
We share the stage, Natalie. No doubt about that. We share the stage covering hockey, and that's what it's all about. Just bringing the game of hockey to the people, which is always a lot of fun, and really looking forward to seeing your coverage on Boston Fleet. And but first and foremost, tonight, semifinal round of the women's Beanpot taking place at Matthews Arena. Coverage kicks off at 4:30. Appreciate you coming on and talking to us about that, and look forward to seeing you too.
Yeah, thank you so much, Adam. Appreciate it. And we'll see you on the TV.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah. On the TV tonight as the Bruins kick off a matchup against the Lightning. We got pregame coverage coming your way at 6:00 on Nesson as the Bruins look to avenge the loss against the Lightning on Thursday, coming off a big win over the Florida Panthers in overtime. Thanks again to Andy Brickley for joining us here on the Hockey Hub podcast. I'm Adam Pellerin, and we will see you on Thursday. Take care.